Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official Console Creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Vegvari, and alongside me, special guest, returning guest,
Turning
Marcel
it back to back.
Oh my goodness.
Has that ever happened before? Back
Never.
to back, besides the host, obviously, you know, so.
Exactly, the people who should be here. Yeah, no, this is the first. We loved you so much last week when you came on to talk and re-review the original Hellblade. We're like,
yes,
gotta bring him back. Do an encore for Senua Saga Hellblade 2. How are you doing?
Doing good. I was super excited when we finally got our keys and everything. I'm also tired with the charity stuff as well. I was playing some supermarket simulator where with crowd control, where people can they mess up with your game, so they'll purchase coins, and the coins their purchase goes towards the charity. And people just send me endless milk and bread, man. I have rows of milk and bread.
What are you supposed to do with all of it?
I literally have milk for at $1. I'm like, can you please buy more? And people just be, I think I'll buy one. I'm like, milk at $1? That's gold. What are you doing? Help me out.
Yeah.
Too much.
Well, at least you had Hellblade 2 as a palate cleanser. Outside of that, you got to experience that. I did as well. So yeah, I'm stoked that you were able to take the time to join me to talk about this game, because for people who might not catch last week's episode, Hellblade has been a bonding experience for us, and it's just been a game that you and I both have been anticipating a whole bunch into the lead up of this, whether or not we're tagging each other in the dashboard updates when they launch that, or merch, or it's just everything in between. We could not have been more excited to actually dive into this game, and thanks to Xbox we got to do it early.
Huge thanks to Xbox for sending both of us a key as well. I think we're so excited for this game that I think probably maximum 10 seconds of an Xbox or a Hellblade or Ninja Theory post, we're already tagging each other. I think I get your notification before I get my actual notification from them. I have them I'll be like, wait a minute, what? Oh, how'd you do this? It's wild, man.
Ninja Theory all the way in Europe and everything, they're paying
all the wires in the air,
exactly.
Satellites.
See, exactly. No, exactly. So I couldn't have thought of a better person to have on the show this week talking about the game. Again, this is going to be a spoiler-free review of the game. We're not going to talk too much about the story at large, in depth, but there are going to be broad strokes here in terms of just what you guys can anticipate when the game launches. Whether or not you're playing on Tuesday, May 21st on, Xbox Series X, S, PC, or later down the road, who knows? Either way, a lot to go over. Marcel, absolutely. First up, broad strokes, what are your thoughts? How long did it take you to beat the game? Walk me through it.
Absolutely. So my runtime was 8 hours, and it probably would have been around 7.5, I would say, because I did spend a lot of time in one of the greatest photo modes I've ever experienced in my life. I have a photography background, and the stuff you can do with this game is out of this world. It's literally you're actually crafting your own photo here. I feel like I was in a red room for a minute here. It's hands down one of the best experiences I've ever had. But the game itself probably 7.5, 8 hours. If I didn't find all the ruins that are as well.
We'll talk about
they're very difficult to find this time around. That's for sure. But overall, this was a truly this is a remarkable, I don't know how they're doing this, Ninja Theory, what witchcraft they're doing there, especially with this game. It deals with a lot of myths and even I guess witchcrafts as well in this game. They made their own craft for this game, because it's truly outstanding what they did here.
And just to confirm, you were playing on PC, correct?
Yes, I played on PC via Steam.
Cool. I mean, as for me, I don't think I can make it more clear that this is exactly what I've wanted from Xbox for years at this point. I think for everything that Xbox has provided in terms of its catalog, Senua Saga Hellblade 2 fills that void of an engaging, a compelling, an emotional story. It's cinematic. It's like you're sitting down and watching one of the best crafted films, but you're actively engaging in it from start to finish. It takes such a minimal approach from its UI to just the way it kind of leads you through the game itself. It doesn't hold your hand whatsoever in terms of
whatsoever.
what you're what you're going through it and how Senua was or like going through step by step through the game. Um, there were just a lot of very firm like filmmaking techniques that clearly went into this game. Ninja Theory clearly wanted to take inspiration from film and that medium and bring it over into Hellblade 2. And I
Mhm.
think above all else, they've knocked it out of the park.
Oh, 100%. Like,
They took everything that made the first game great and
yep.
honestly made it better across the board. Like I have a few
Mhm.
nitpicks in terms of like aspects here and there, but
Yeah,
overall
same here. Yeah.
overall, I was blown away to the point where, yeah, like you 7.5 hours to 8 hours it took me to complete the game. And by the time
Mhm.
the credits rolled, I was like, oh my God, that
What a
was an
what a
experience
ride. What a
I don't
ride.
think I don't think I've ever had in a video game as
Yeah.
well like in a video game that's distilled in this kind of way. I mean, we've had cinematic games like that, like Order 1886
Yep.
and other or even like Death
Yeah.
Stranding to a certain
Alan
extent.
Wake as well, you know?
Alan Wake is another
Yeah.
one, but I don't think I've had it distilled in this type of way where, yeah, you have a game that's 8 hours long. This is like cutting edge technology that's going in there, cutting edge audio that's going in there. It's
It's
really
what and, like,
something.
not only that, things are just going. Like, there's no, like, "All right, please wait, loading time." It's just like, "All right, next scene, going." Going, like, u up in the sky, you're flying right back into the next scene. I'm like, "What is how?" Like, there's no, like, this and I didn't want to, like, and I don't wanna make it seem like, "Oh my god, I'm like, slow down for a minute here." Like, no, I'm just like, "How are they doing this?" Like, this truly blowing my mind, and this is, like, another staple in Ninja Theory. Like, they're probably one of the greatest developers out there, hands down, because like Hellblade 1 was already a trendsetter. You know, replaying revisiting that game, you saw like the stuff that what they were doing, like you only see it now in games now. And like this one
Right.
here, this is truly the next gen that when they were like, oh, we're going to next gen and everything, you know, like we saw some games, I'm like, you know, some games were able to be played on PS4 and Xbox One. Um, no, this is truly next gen. Like
Right.
this is what I wanted to see, and like this is a home run, hands down.
No, absolutely, and I think, yeah, I mean, if we want to start a conversation about just
Mhm.
the way the game looks, I mean,
Oh,
from the moment we did our whole re-review, we've recently played and everything, but as soon as they were like,
yeah,
"Do you want the recap?" I was like, "Give me all the
yeah.
content I can extract out of this game," right? And as soon as that starts and you're seeing the just basic assets of rocks and grass and everything, and just
Mhm.
the way the lighting's hitting it, just the way that the camera's panning over these, like, still shots, I was like, "Uh-oh, these guys are cooking." Like,
Yeah.
we are in for a treat. This is just the most mundane, run-of-the-mill thing that they could have, like, centered on my screen right now, and yet
Mhm.
it's one of the most impressive looking things I think I've seen in the video game medium.
No, absolutely. I know when we first saw the game, like with a couple of trailers that they played out and everything. I know, like right off the bat, and I know you know the scene already. The first probably one of the first scenes that we saw with this game. A lot of people are like, "There's no way this like, oh, that's a cool
Oh my
CGI.
god,
There's a
yes,
cool CGI in this game." There's like, oh, and people are like, "No, this is real gameplay." We're like, "Is it though?"
right?
Oh no, it is. It's
Yeah,
wild. It's pretty.
yeah.
It blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe. Like, I remember when that moment happened. I was like, oh my god, they actually did it. Like, this is amazing.
I know, and that exact same thought went through
Yeah,
my mind multiple times because we've had so many trailers of this
yeah,
game, and at a certain point, I just kind of started phasing them out because I was like, I know
mhm.
this game's gonna be short, so I do
Yeah.
wanna
I don't
keep
want.
a lot
I'm
of
the same way.
surprises.
Yeah.
But that being said, when you start reaching those touchstone moments that we've seen in trailers, I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh my god, these have been breadcrumb like,
Yeah.
a breadcrumb trail leading us the entire way," because, yeah, going back to your first point of, like, that first look at the game, I thought, okay, one, that looks way too impressive, way
Yeah.
too like realistic. And yeah, to your point, a lot of games do that where they're like, here's an impressive vertical slice, but it's a tech demo.
Mhm.
It's a proof of concept or stuff like that. So the
Yeah.
entire time going through the game, and again, no spoilers or anything, I'm
Yeah.
kind of waiting for some sort of amalgamation or some sort of like tip of the hat to that moment.
Mhm.
But then once we reached there, I was like, oh, they've had this entire time.
Yeah. This is real. Like,
Yeah, like
this is actually happening.
and it's playing out exactly as they wanted all those years ago. That I'm like, "Oh my goodness." Like,
Yeah,
that just
I can't believe that.
yeah.
Like, I don't know how they are able to like, I don't know how they're able to do this. Like, a part of me was like, like I don't, you know that meme like, well, I don't want this toy anymore. Like I'm like, there's so many like other games. I'm like, yeah, you're cool and all, but look at how good this game looks and everything. Like I like right off the bat, I was like, can you imagine like a Resident Evil world like this? Like how are they doing this? Like I started thinking, I'm like, can they do other games, please? Like it's truly amazing. Um like skills, crafting, technology, like even the sound as well. Like it's just absolutely amazing. I was just blown away.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show it's a product of how much they put into their mocap, into their stage design, their stagecraft,
Yep.
and everything. Because again, going back to my whole point of this feeling like a film, Melina Jeurgens like did almost all of it. Like she was
Yep.
in the role of Senua this entire time,
Yep.
and
Top of the half
it
for
paid.
amazing performance
Oh my
as well.
goodness. Like, it just the expression on her face,
Mhm.
the dialogue, the voice acting and everything, but it comes down to, like, her actions on screen as well, like,
Yep.
she's, crawling under stuff, she's, leaping over things, she's running,
Yeah.
she's doing everything that we're seeing on the screen, and
Yep.
that's what really pays off in dividends is that, like, we're not seeing just, animated,
Yeah.
people like interacting with each other. It feels like I'm watching a stage play this entire time.
100%. I definitely agree. And like a lot of people don't know her, like her very first acting role was Hellblade
Right.
in anything. Like she was just a video editor, and they're like, we need someone. You over there. You'll just get in here. Come in, kid. They're like, all right. And then it just happened. It just happened to work out. And the fact, like, I'm sure she has done some training or whatever, like from over the years and everything.
Yeah.
And it definitely it definitely shows. She like I hope she's definitely nominated for something.
Oh my goodness.
Like
Yes.
later on this year because she definitely deserves her flowers in this for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing as well that I want to say with the facial expressions, there were times in this game I just assume everything is just Unreal Engine. I don't think there's any real life like besides them acting out. I don't think there's any like live action this time around. I think it's just
No.
all like the technology. Like there's literally like that's once again with the photo movie like we mentioned before. There was actually saw like dried lips on her. It's
Yep.
what like it's crazy. This Unreal Engine 5 like it's out of his mind right now. So
Yes, absolutely. Bobby, welcome.
come on in.
How's it going?
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, top level thoughts. Give me your top level thoughts on Hellblade.
Top level. This game fucks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it really does.
It really does.
Really
yeah.
Given what we know about this game, 2019 there was literally no game in development. It was just that trailer, and 5 years on, what we're getting now. I mean, I think that what they delivered was above and beyond what I expected. I'm near the end of my first playthrough, so that's why I was a little bit late. But this is an improvement in every aspect of Hellblade, and despite that, I'm now concerned because this game is incredible. Is it going to be incredible enough to keep Hellblade afloat or Ninja Theory afloat? Because like this is probably their best game yet, and given the situation, like I'm really concerned. That's my top level thought. I'm like, this game is incredible. I want more, but is Xbox going to give us more?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a whole thing like that we can look at after it's released and everything. But yeah, no, that's
definitely in the back of many people's minds.
Absolutely,
sure.
yeah. Mine
as well. Be in
everyone's
thought head now, right? Are these studios, gonna stay open? Because look at what happened with Hi-Fi Rush, and like we need to bring this up because that was the best game Xbox put out in 5 years.
Sure.
And they closed the studio, and now Xbox is putting out another incredible game, and that chopping block is there. So like I think everyone should be going in with that notion in their head. If you want these games, support them, buy them day one, subscribe, whatever you got to do, support these studios, and maybe that'll turn the tide. But top level, Hellblade 2 is incredible. I'm shocked that they were able to deliver what they did, given the first game was like indie game, blah blah blah. They took what they did on that game and just delivered like the perfect game for their studio.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, I want to go back to the way the game's performance and looks and everything. I think just the way the game transitioned some of its scenes blew my mind. Again, we can't go too in depth, but there's one scene in particular where you're going through a cave and you come out into a specific section, and then the game just like transitions into open field.
Yep.
Like within a second, I was like,
yeah,
what the fuck just happened? Like like there were some like very surreal visuals throughout this game, like almost like unsettling, but just the way that they like twist reality and bend your perception as the player blows my mind that they're able to do that fluidly.
So smoothly. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually kind of curious because I ran this on PC, you know, the PC has a lot more potential of like, oh wait, it can run a lot of things smooth and everything. How did this run on Xbox out of curiosity?
Great for me.
Great?
Yeah,
okay.
like I mean, of course, the elephant in the room is that the game's only running at 30 frames per second because a lot of it is being used in mocap and everything. So there are some performance setbacks or performance trade-offs. So there is no, like, if you go into the menus, there is no tailoring. Hey, do you want to play on performance? Do you want to play on fidelity or anything like that? It's just, you get what you get. But to be honest, I'm not.
You can't even notice it.
I'm not playing this for the silky smooth frames. I think, again, going back to it, this game feels like a film. It plays out like a film. So the entire time I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I need out of it. It's not God of War. It's not Call of Duty. I don't need 120 frames per second. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for the game. I just think that in terms of its limitations, performance-wise, I think it used exactly what it needed to, and it runs great for what it is.
Yeah. Did you also try it on the S out of curiosity? Like, I know you have both, right? No, okay.
I do have both. I haven't like, I literally finished the game 20 minutes before we started recording. I was down to the wire, everyone. I haven't been able to experiment but I will be playing a second playthrough, and I might as well start it, at least play a little bit of it on the Series S and see if there's any discrepancy. But based on what I know,
this game runs on a 1070 card.
That's what I mean.
No problem. Like, there should be no problem whatsoever. You know. So,
Bobby, did you experience any kind of hitches, any kind of pop-ins, or anything like that?
Nope. The only complaint I have is it's dark at times. So even like with
let's talk about that actually.
And it's just, I don't know, maybe it's the OLED showing those true blacks, but
sure. Yeah,
it's my only thing is like I was struggling to see things, and I had to just jump the brightness up, which I know kind of ruins the whole aesthetic. But I mean, that's the only way I can move forward is just like raising that brightness and moving past it. But yeah, no hitches. I have got no glitches.
Yeah.
It's buttery smooth even at 30 frames. Like it doesn't need to be anything higher than that. I think this game is cinematic. Like every movie runs at what 24 frames per second. So
yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it falls in line with what we're obviously getting. Is it's a cinematic experience. It's a movie. It's a playable movie. And I don't think 60 frames would make this better. I think it'll probably just prevent what Ninja Theory's aesthetic is or whatever they're going with. But yeah, no, it doesn't need it. I love it as it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it looks incredible on the Series S. The Series X. And if this is what this game looks like now, like I'm curious to see what their next game looks like, or with Project Mara, because like they seem to have nailed Unreal Engine 5, which very few developers have done so far. I mean, there's been a couple like Mortals of Avium, but that game was technically a mess. Like there was just a lot of hitching, a lot of pop-in stuff like that. But no, everything's smooth.
This is true Unreal 5. Honestly, this is what, when I heard they're like, this is next gen, I'm like, this is what I expected. You know, it's just, it blew me out of the water. I'm just really impressed with everything they did, even with the sound and everything as well. And it's crazy.
This felt like the promise of that Unreal Engine 5 demo. When they're looking at the way that the rays of light will bounce off a rock and everything like that. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. It's a tech demo. We're never gonna see this for another 10 years. Well, here we are.
Here we are. Yeah,
they proved it. I do struggle though, because we're talking so highly about the way the game looks and everything. Because traditionally, I would be like, well, the way a game looks shouldn't dictate whether a game's good. Like a game's good because of its gameplay and everything. I think Hellblade 2, and maybe you guys can either on my side on this, or maybe you don't agree, but Hellblade 2 kind of doesn't fit that mold, in my opinion, only because it is so determined to be a showcase of tech in terms of the way the game looks, the way the game sounds and everything, that really the gameplay comes secondary to everything else. It's all about the storytelling. It's all the way about the performance, audio, the way the game looks and everything. So I think like it's an outlier in my opinion, where usually I would rather a game just look like a dump truck and it play exceptionally well. Like I scale down all the graphics in Call of Duty just so it plays better. But here, I mean, we'll get into it about the combat and everything, but like it being as good, it looks like as good as it does, makes it a standout for me. I don't know if I'm alone in that or
no, I agree. Yeah. Sorry,
no, it's I guess the new gold standard for what we should expect.
Sure.
I know obviously not a lot of studios can do what Unreal Engine 5 provides, and they can't obviously work to that level, but I mean, I'm hoping to see more games take advantage of Unreal Engine 5 in the future.
Yes.
And implement the technology, because like I think we've hit a plateau for how good games can look. Now it's just how realistic can they go, and this is what we're seeing now. I think it's probably the most realistic game I've seen ever.
Yeah,
and you can see it in the facial motion capture. Everything looks realistic. The face contorts in ways that like I've never seen games replicate. Like this is like a almost 1-for-1 scan to gameplay I've ever seen, and it's just like I've been taking non-stop photos of just like her face just like contorting, or she's like in pain, or she's on the ground.
Just the expression,
expression on her face as well. Yeah. I mentioned that her, like one of the pictures I took, her lips were dried as well. Like it's pretty crazy. It's wild.
It's nuts. And I think you only get that, at least in 2024, for making a game this length. I think that anyone that kind of has this ambition of like, oh, I would rather, I want a game like The Last of Us Part 2, which is 40 hours, but look as good as this game does. I'm like, that's a pipe dream. Like that's not going to happen for another few, like many years, with the adoption of technology, adoption of UE5 and everything. But that being said, like Bobby, you were saying, Ninja Theory just raised the bar on what developers should be striving for in a sustainable way. But I do think that is going to come down to the concession of, hey, we gotta be okay with smaller experiences. I think I got more out of this 8-hour experience than I do like with most 20-hour, 40-hour games, because of what they set out to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, what's crazy is that this game's $50. That's like, this is a $50 game. You know, maybe it would have benefited if it came out when the Xbox Series X and S came out. It'd be like, hey, this is our future. Here's a prime example. Yeah, it will definitely have. I mean, the game is not out yet, of course, but like it definitely would have helped out for sure. But the fact that it's $50 and you got this type of experience is mind-boggling. There's some games out there don't even run. It's like $100. So,
right. Yeah. I do wonder if that was just because they're like, okay, yeah, it's 8 hours versus, hey, we're using like cutting edge technology. Because I do think that I don't know. I struggle because I do feel like there is a value proposition there to be like, no, it's it's worth $70 here. That you're going to see shit in this game that you've never seen before. Yeah. But then at the same time, it does come down to, hey, it is an 8-hour game. There is incentives to replay it. There is like a narrator that you can unlock in the second playthrough and stuff like that. So you can pad out your time. We talked about it kind of briefly. There are collectibles as well, way more collectibles in this game than there were in the first one. I don't know about you guys, but I started my playthrough going through it, and there are these runes that you can kind of unlock by kind of focusing in on them, kind of the same way that you did in the first game. But this one, it actually like catalogs them. You can kind of see them unlock like on the pillar of each one. Like they start glowing up as soon as you unlock them. Right. And it was going great. Like the first 3 chapters, I was like, boom, 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 all of them in succession. And then all of a sudden I got like missed like 5 of them. I was like, ah, shit. And the same thing happened with the second collectible as well. You can unlock these trees by focusing in on a face in the rock. It disappears.
I found one.
Trippy
I
as
never
hell.
saw another one again. That's
Really?
it. I just saw one. That's it. Never saw another one again.
I was under the impression like, oh, they're going to make a big deal about every single time you see one, or it's going to be very in your face, kind of the same with the first one.
Yeah.
It was very blatant. And then all of a sudden I missed like 6 of them. I was like, oh my God. But then I started noticing it more and more. I was like, these guys, these little devils here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was.
I don't know. Like, can we talk about the voices as well? Because normally the voices will be like, oh, what's that over there? Or like, this time they're like, I ain't saying nothing. I'm like, bro, like, I have 4 of you in my head. No one's telling me anything. What's going on right now?
So the audio and the voices, like in the first one, they do help you along the way with the puzzles or just navigation. But in terms of the collectibles, they're not telling you shit.
No, they're telling you enough. They're more like, oh, she's never gonna find it. I'm like, find what? What's going on? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Bobby, how about you? How was your collectathon in this game?
I just mainlined it. I'm gonna go back. I need to go back just because our embargo was tight. I didn't really want to jump into the extracurricular, but this is a easily minimum two playthrough game. You have to play it a couple times, so I'm gonna focus on that the next time.
Yeah, me too.
And get through them. But like, I mean, they're there. Like they're not obviously like super tucked away. You just have to think a little bit. I'm noticing with what I've done so far, and like it makes sense. I feel like it's more of the same of the first game. I feel, but I don't feel like it's necessary in these games. You know, like I know everyone likes collectathons, but this game, like I actually prefer the way I've been playing it. It's just going through the game, doing the necessary runes that get you further in, and then moving on. But like it feels better. It feels a lot more natural, I guess, because the way the storytelling is, it's obviously done in like parts, and like I feel like that's kind of what this is. It's just because it's so more cinematic. I've been trying to focus on the actual cinematics, and yeah. I mean, I'll go back, but yeah, I mean, you guys are right about it. Like I feel like it's a good direction, but yeah, that's for another playthrough. I mean, like we said, tight embargoes is really makes it difficult. I wish we had a little bit more time to just
that's fair
breathe, right? Because it's just like we got it 3-4 days before embargo, so it's like short game. Despite all that, you don't have the time to enjoy it as much as you would if you say you had like 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
That's fair. Yeah.
Plan is to go back. I think I know Steve. You know, we said minimum 2 playthroughs. I'm actually looking forward to it. I think there's even 3 you probably have to do. So you're still getting 30 hours out of this game. So like that's the good thing.
If you wanted to,
sure.
Yeah. Going back, the audio sound engineering in this game, Marcel, you kind of brought up the voices. I think they just doubled down on the audio technology in this game, the way that they kind of like reverb from one ear to the other if you're wearing headphones or if you're just even playing it on your speakers. But it is kind of the locked and loaded headphones on. Again, highly encourage anyone that's going to go out and play this game. You got to wear the headphones all the way through, because I do feel like that's the way to get the most out of your experience here.
Absolutely. How was your soundbar this time around? Did it do the same effect as the first one?
It did. It just wasn't as noticeable. I was kind of trying to pinpoint that again, because last time, Bobby, you weren't here, but I was saying that the LG soundbar I have did a really good job of like the spatial sound design of like going from like one channel to the other and everything, especially with the darkness whenever his voiceovers came in and everything. This one, I didn't feel like it was as impactful. It didn't feel like it was as fluid from going from like one speaker to the other or one channel to the other. So it was fine. It got like, I played probably 2 or 3 hours of it on my soundbar, and then I switched over to my headphones, my Turtle Beach headphones. And I was like, oh, this is where it's at. Like you hear so much more, whether it's like the depression ASMR, or just like the wind blowing through your ears and everything, or just like the loud booms, the music,
certain enemies that be behind you as well.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, someone's breathing on my neck right now.
It's so again, I highly recommend anyone that's going to go download this game, play it, just put on headphones, because that's the way to get the most out of this experience.
Absolutely.
I need to probably get a pair of headphones for my Xbox. I have a bunch for PC, but
and they don't work on Xbox.
No, I don't have the. I lost the dongle. I need a dongle.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And then I have all my PlayStation ones, but I've been using my what I even know it is 9.1 surround sound. Like it does sound incredible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just dependent on what you're using, but like I ran through, I guess the eARC on my TV, and then I set it up. I think it's Dolby Atmos on the Xbox, but like there's no sound coming out of my Xbox. I have no idea why. So I mean, I went back to Dolby Digital, but like it works. Like I'm sitting in my chair, and like the satellite speakers are pretty clear. Everything is coming through as it feels like it's intended. But I mean, if you're saying headphones is the way, and like they're obviously putting that as preference in the settings, like when you start the game up, it says headphones first. But
yeah,
it's just hard to find a pair. For me, it's been. I gotta find a pair, which that suits me because like I hate over the ear. I feel like I want a pair of good buds for this, and I know Razer's got one, so I'm probably gonna have to do that. But I mean, I think you're still getting a good experience regardless how you're playing it. But like I said, it just depends on your system. But I got lucky. I got a really good system, and it does work if you have obviously like a proper 7 to 9.1 sound system.
Just don't play through your TV speaker. Just don't be that guy, or like just don't pull that shit on me because it's not. I won't respect you if that's what you're doing. Just raw dogging it through your TV,
which is fair. But there are certain TVs like the LG C2 and C3. I think the TV speakers are pretty decent actually. So I mean, if you do it, you probably have to. If you're playing on TV speakers, it has to be a good TV. Like I find like the mid range are probably not as good as if you get something like a high range TV. So yeah, it all comes down to what your setup is. But like, yeah, a standard TV will not do it. You probably have to have a better TV to get a better sound out of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess the other major thing, and I know might come as a surprise or not to some people who might listen to last week's episode. I'm going to talk about the combat because last week I was vindicated in knowing, hey, it's probably the weakest part of this game, the original Hellblade. Coming into this one, I'm very curious to know what everyone thinks about the combat, because I do think, again, it's probably the weakest part. For different reasons, but we'll talk about it. Yeah. Marcel, what did you think? Like the difference in combat, because there are a lot.
There's a lot, and it's very noticeable this time around what they did. Yeah. This one definitely seemed a lot more like choreographic action movie type of combat, where like the other one was more just like parry slash parry slash. That's and then like watch out, someone's behind you. There's less of, and I think we could talk about that a little bit more, right? Like that's not okay. Like there's less of people attacking you from behind, where like that becomes more of a transition. Like, hey, you defeat this enemy, here's the next enemy as well.
It's just like one-on-one combat.
It's one-on-one combat this time around, that you won't be snuck up by anyone unless. But there's times where like I didn't actually defeat the enemy, and I don't know if this is just part of the whole choreography or like the script in the game, or if they're just like, we're just gonna throw something random at you. Like I don't know, like I'm still trying to figure it out, because it was the way how it happened was like someone actually, like an enemy actually parried me, and another enemy came to him, bumped into him, and like he shoved that guy away. He's like, you're not winning. All right, I'm gonna fight her now. I was like, what is happening right now? Or someone, I literally took his own axe, hit him with his axe, and then he turned me around with the axe in his face. And then he's like, all right, you fight my buddy now. I was like, what is going on? He's like, I lost, but he will fight you. Like he literally turned me around. He's like, you're fighting him right now. Like the choreography is wild. So I really enjoyed this one much. It is still simplified. I would say the parry system is a little bit shorter this time around, where like the first game was a little more forgiving. This time around, it is a lot shorter. I did notice. Because there's like different, like there's late parry and there's like perfect parry this time around the game,
right?
Where like the bright white light that was in the first game will still show up, where like the other one you just do like you see like a little yellowish tint,
and then there's red. Which
and
is
then
the
red just get out of the way. Just get out of the way. And then the enemies are going like wild as well. They're like sometimes like you'll be like, oh, here's one swing, I'll have a chance to swing back. No, like someone will do like 3 swings in a row, and like you see like a random backhand, which I still don't know how to defend after that. I'm just like, just get out of the way, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I've never been able to. I've never been able to defend that.
I just like, I'll just take the hit, I guess, and then I'll come back at you. Enemies will react to you this time around with your swings, and like some like the voices will be like, oh, he's faster than you, or he knows your moves, so you kind of like change it up a little bit. And I don't know if like, is there directional swinging in this game? At times I was like, oh, let me point up, and she swung up.
Oh,
yeah, that's why I was like, oh, I'm doing different, like she's doing different swings.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, you know, let me change up my swing. Maybe try the second round. Like I was like, I pressed up and she swung up. I was like, oh, you didn't do that before.
Because usually what I do is I just like hold forward the entire time, and then I'll alternate and maybe like incorporate like a running swing or something like that just to close the gap. But yeah, I didn't even think about like left or right on the axis or anything like that.
It's probably not like all like directions, but like I think certain directions she'll like do like if I ask for a horizontal, she'll do a horizontal swing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in the moment. I was enjoying it. So
yeah. Bobby, your thoughts on the combat?
I mean, it's there. It's obviously nothing too intuitive. I mean, and let's be honest, Ninja Theory made the best Devil May Cry game ever. I'm gonna tell everybody that. I will stick with that story.
Sure.
So yeah, no, I mean, seeing what they were able to do with the best Devil May Cry game ever, and then come into this, I mean, I understand you can't obviously replicate that because of what this game is. It's serviceable to the story. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I mean, it's just a tool to move forward and tell more of Senua's story, but it's cool. I think we're all starting the game on dynamic difficulty, which I think is like the standard difficulty. So you're obviously you're doing better. You're fighting tougher enemies. But I noticed that even when times when I was getting hit and she's getting knocked on the floor, and the enemies were relentless in this game. So like that is another thing to remember, is that I think they're a lot smarter, but the gameplay system itself is just very basic. So it's not able to support, I feel, the intelligence of these characters that you're fighting. It's just it doesn't match what's happening. So there is like, I feel like a disjointed battle system there. It's fun, but it can't keep up with the momentum, I feel, of what's happening.
Sure. Yeah.
Everything's a lot slow. You know how it is. Like it's a very slow system. Like your strikes are slow. She's obviously not a superhuman, so she's doing the best she can. And these enemies are just faster than her. They're bodying her. They're throwing her around like a rag doll, and like she's going through the motions, I feel like. But yeah, do not hate it. I feel like there's just room for improvement. So if and when we get a third sequel, I hope like they perfect it. But yeah, it serves a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, kind of the same thing. I think the combat in this game is way more cinematic than anything. I think, again, it's all performative. I know that they did a lot of mocap for each individual death, and yeah, it's all choreographed beautifully. Again, it does feel like you're kind of just going through the motions of, okay, this enemy is going to die a very specific way. So if you hit the perfect parry, she's going to do her animation. It's going to be totally different from anything you've seen thus far. It's brutal. It's graphic. You feel the weight of the sword every time it clangs against their weapon or goes through an enemy, like very, very brutally, very graphically. You feel that rage. But again, it does feel like all of that makes it better, but it doesn't address my crucial issue with it, is that, yeah, the parry system, it just isn't there, especially when you consider it, you know, I've just come off of Rise of the Ronin, and I came off Stellar Blade and everything. Those have like great parry systems that feel engaging, that feel like they're reactive to my inputs and everything. Here, I just never could get the perfect parry when I wanted to. It kind of just felt like blind luck. Yeah. Like I was just like constantly waiting for an enemy to swing, and then I'd try to hit it and it just wouldn't happen. And then all of a sudden it just would. And I'm like, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything differently. It feels like you're just allowing that perfect parry to be executed in order to then go in, like transition into that kill animation and then transition into the next enemy. Like Marcel, to your point, one of the most beautiful things I think, and the strength of the combat is not really knowing if it's RNG, if it's all pre-planned and everything, but going from enemy to enemy, dropping the whole, oh, they're behind you, you're manipulating and organizing your enemies. Like, I'm so happy that they got rid of that and just focus on one-on-one combat, because then it did open up that avenue of, you're in the middle of a fight, another guy completely off screen runs into your enemy, he's throwing them off, or you get shoved to the ground, and then all of a sudden your focus is on someone else. And we'll talk about it in a little bit, but Senua is not always alone in this game. So there are moments when you're in a kind of a bigger battle with other people kind of fighting alongside, or like within the same arena, and you're like, so much is going on, so it does feel like a more realistic combat scenario. And that's great to see and to experience. But in terms of just that satisfaction of hitting an enemy, of reacting to their hits, I feel like, it could just be improved a little bit. Also, getting rid of the melee, like the hit.
I wanted my kick.
I was like, come on, I can't kick an enemy down, especially when they started reintroducing the enemies with shields. I was like, I don't know what to do here. I'm freezing up. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Oh my goodness. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just
she doesn't
feel like
roll as far as side to side roll. It's a shorter roll now as well.
Shorter roll, shorter dodge. Like, she'll dodge and then kind of like stumble, and then there's almost like a cooldown effect where like you can't just like dodge away and then start swiping. It's like dodge, she stumbles, then she has to like pick up her sword from the ground, or like pick it up and reposition herself. I just feel like overall the combat kind of focused a lot on, well, that focus mechanic a little too much, where it did feel like, okay, I'm not killing enemies just by virtue of hitting them. I'm waiting for my focus bar to go all the way up, hitting that button, and then just kind of just going ham on, which looks great by the way, but it was a totally different kind of circle to the last game.
Absolutely. And like, I don't know if they try to make it more real, because like, I know I will be exhausted, and like this time around, like Senua, like she does, like after like a battle, like you actually see her like take like a big deep breath in the air. She's like, oh my god, fine. Like you're like, oh, I feel the same way, Senua. I'm tired too as well. So
well, it's so funny. We were talking last week about those almost like areas where the enemies just keep coming, and you're like, oh my god, could you just slow down for a moment? There are those again in this game, and I think that they amp up the anxiety, that tension throughout those battles where the enemies just keep coming, and you're like, Senua, just give me a break here. Like, can we just get, oh my goodness. And then, like to see her react too in such a visceral way because of how good the mocap and the facial expressions are. I'm like, she's going through it. I'm going through it. The voices in her head are going through it. Like, we're all in this journey together, and it's tense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
Sorry, go ahead, Bobby. Yeah.
I feel like this game wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for the facial animation. Like, it really helps bring the story to life. It's just because like you can get a lot of hidden meaning from someone's face, and I feel like this is the first game where I'm finally getting that. And I mean, she's got all these voices in her head, and she's reacting to each of them, and you can see it in like little ticks she has. And I feel like that needs to be said a lot more. I mean, this is the first game, I think we all agree, that does something this unique, and I want to praise that for now for a second, because it's not something you see every day. It's very few movies can even imitate what this is doing, and like that right there is just like, that blows my mind. You will rarely see this in games and movies these days. So like, I just want to bring that to everyone's attention.
No,
it's insane. It's insane.
It's a great transition, because I did want to talk about the story in some capacity, because I think, again, it being the cinematic kind of experience, a lot of it does fall on the shoulders of the storytelling, which I think Hellblade 2 does a fantastic job with its storytelling. In terms of it being compelling, emotional, human, I'm way more invested in Senua now than I have ever been. I think the most brilliant aspect was bringing in more characters and having her not only interact with her environment and the enemies, but interact with actual human people so that she can show some compassion, have some compassion given to her, but then also learn to grow as well, which I don't think would have been possible if she was just isolated again. I feel like we got that story of isolation, of breaking through that isolation, and then by the end of it, you know, by the end of Hellblade 1, we're told, hey, there's going to be another story, come with us and everything. And then we're introduced, boom, to, and I'm going to butcher all the names, so I'm not even going to try there. but as you start seeing this cast of characters, you're like, oh my goodness, Senua is like a growing human character.
Yeah.
And I've fallen in love with her as a person. Like, she's like brave, strong, and just like a super compelling protagonist, in my opinion.
Yep.
I definitely agree. The other characters do definitely help her out with her journey, because she always thought she has to be alone with what she has and everything, and just like they kind of like assist her that way to mold her to the, you know, the person who we get while the story continues. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Bobby, any thoughts on even just the story in general? Because I think it goes some like very interesting ways, with, you know, without giving anything away.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like this is one of those games where we could probably do a spoiler cast maybe in like a week, but like I probably want to talk about it and kind of get more in depth with it. But I feel like it's overall a huge improvement over the first game. I know obviously that's the introduction to this world in the series, but like what Ninja Theory was able to do through, you know, characters, the environments, it really is a character of its own, and just being Senua and exploring this world as I don't think it's a spoiler, but she's a slave. She's obviously like, she's thrown to this world, and she's just learning the landscape and just exploring together with her and watching the events unfold with the enemies, which I don't know if it was spoiled or not, but like the enemies are incredible. I feel like they're a step above the first game.
I agree.
Everything about it is just it is like a platinum experience. Like, it is exquisite. Everything is so detailed. The characters have a lot of backstory, even if they're on the screen briefly. Like, you do learn about these characters, and there is a couple of particular, like, I feel like stand out. Obviously, I can't even say their names. I'm not going to attempt it like you guys. I don't want to butcher their names, but like, yeah, you're introduced to these couple of these characters at the beginning, and they're like, whoa, these are pretty interesting people right off the bat. And then Senua's voices, like, I can't. I didn't play the first game in the lead up to the second. It's been like 6 years, but like, I feel like the voices have changed a little bit. I feel like they're different from the first game a little bit. I feel maybe like they've not changed, but there's more of them. I feel you guys can probably correct me on that, because you guys did your replay recently. But like, I feel like
I didn't notice a difference.
I noticed the same voices, for her,
more talkative
in their head,
like more talkative. Like, she's more in tune to what they're saying compared to previous. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah,
but they're more fleshed out, because she's willing to understand what they are. Because the first game, she was fighting the entire time just because she thought it was like, you know, a curse or whatever. But I feel like they've enhanced that by, you know, having her understand that they're actually trying to help with these voices. And that's what I've took from this game, is she's finally willing to work with her whether it's an illness or curse. I mean, it depends on who you're asking, but like, she's working with what she's got, and she's running with it, and it helps her survive this really weird situation she's in. And I love how the voices are right off the bat. They're telling her, hey, this guy's evil, don't listen to him, you know, stay away from him. And then she's like, well, I need him though, because, you know, something's happening. Like, right now, I need his help, because without him, I'm dead. And I mean, we're obviously not going to get into spoiler territory, but I think it does a good job of paying off what you're shown in the first couple hours.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just again, we'll probably already talked about it a lot, but Melina Jeurgens, like, give her all incredible. The awards.
She gets the award this year. Give her something.
Absolutely. Like,
I feel like
if not, I'm giving her flowers at the Game Awards. I'm giving her something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if she's not there, I mean, I think we're all pretty much gonna say the same thing. If I see her in person, like at the Game Awards or at SGF, I'm gonna say, thank you for what you've done. Like you're amazing. Like you should be in more games. You should be the main character in a lot of games. Like you're clearly a talented person. So be in more games. Like can you imagine her in Alan Wake?
Oh, I hope so. Come on now.
Like
there were
Sam
some coffee. Why not?
Sam Lake is teasing some DLC. I think we're gonna see something in June for the Alan Wake DLC. If Sam Lake hears this, hire this woman, hire her, bring her on board, let her be Alan Wake's like conscience, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Throw her in the game somehow.
Throw her in all the games, but specifically Hellblade 2. There were specific moments throughout the game that I was like, this is the moment. If the Ninja Theory was ever going to clip out this like 2-minute section and send it off to Jeff Keighley and be like, here's our nomination, or like the Oscars do. I was like, these are very specific moments that go down for like voice acting history because of how compelling it was. And I just give her all the flowers, because that was really, really something that you don't really see all that much in video games anymore, or ever really. And
I didn't want to mention the story very quickly, especially with the other characters. There was like there's certain moments I kind of wish we got a little bit more history with them. There's a certain part of the game where I'm like, oh, I want to know what's going on with this character right now, like especially with a certain point where you reach, you're like, and they're dealing with something, you're like, oh, what's going on with them? I kind of want to learn more. Is this kind of like it kind of got just like, all right, well, you'll never know. Just skip forward now. Have a moment.
Yeah.
I think you know which moment I'm talking about.
I think so as well. Yeah. I guess there are concessions being made when you have like an 8-hour runtime, and it's like you're bouncing around, you're skipping time as well. To some certain extent, like you're skipping, like there are chapters in the game, and in between each chapter, you're kind of just like brought forward to the next kind of isolated location, and then kind of goes from there.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, one other thing we didn't really talk about that I need to talk about really quickly is the kind of like God of War Ragnarok-esque like one shot that goes through each chapter. Like there are no like specific breaks unless something like happens to warrant like a blackout moment or something like that. But other than that, it's all just a one-shot take. The camera's following Senua the entire time. It's very, again, cinematic. It's very played out in a way that, films have a hard time doing. But hey, we're doing this in the video game medium. I love that stuff. I love the ambition that God of War has done with Sony Santa Monica leading that charge. But to see Ninja Theory kind of take that and craft it their own way, I thought it paid off really, really well.
Yeah, this is the one game I think needs that one take, that one shot, just to follow Senua. I feel, if there's any other series that does it, it's God of War, and then they have a lot of themes. They share themes, so like, it makes sense.
Yeah,
and no, they nailed it. So I don't think they obviously perfected it. That's not what I want to say, but like they took that idea and they implemented it well, and
very well.
More games shouldn't consider using it, because like obviously there's different play styles, but like if you're over, I don't know, I think it suits the play style of the game. It's slower, so you have to have a slower game to have this. You want to tell a story more than anything, and I feel like that's what they're doing. And
I guess the last kind of like main point that I wanted to talk about was the game's puzzles this time around. Marcel, last week we kind of talked about we're theorizing and wondering like how many of the puzzles they were going to bring over into this game, which I guess a lot seem familiar enough that you still have those touchstones of find the symbols in the environment, stuff like that. There's also, in a different kind of way, there are those illusion puzzles as well, where you are manipulating the world around you. It's very different. You're not going through the arches this time around. You are interacting with kind of like these bubbles. You're kind of focusing in on them, and then all of a sudden something will shift, or you're bringing like you're causing rocks to form so you can go over them. There's another one, kind of similar to the first game as well, where you're using fire to kind of advance through darkness. That's kind of an overarching motif in this game of, using light to combat darkness and stuff like that. Marcel, how did you find the puzzles in this game? Were they different enough, or were you kind of hoping for a little more?
They're kind of similar. I'm like, okay, I know, like, here we go again. And like
Yeah.
I kind of find this time around they kind of handheld you a little bit, where in the first game there's a lot of like there's certain things like maybe for the first puzzle it was very noticeable. Like I'm like, oh, there it is off in the distance. I can see it. Like they didn't even try hiding it. And I can understand that's the first puzzle. So maybe introducing someone to this game, they're like, oh, I gotta look for that thing, maybe. But I wish they maybe had that option to turn off. Like don't show like a hint or anything like that, because there's no option for that. And then not only that, your controller will actually rumble if you're close as well.
Yep.
So that's another thing that I'm like, oh, I guess I'm somewhere around here because the rumble's getting stronger. So I kind of this time around it's very handheld, I found. So which I didn't mind, understand, to try to cater to more people as well. Like this is going to be a lot of people's first experience with Hellblade, because they didn't know like what's Hellblade, what's this game. And I kind of think they want to introduce a lot of people to this game so they could continue another one. So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Bobby, what were your experiences with the puzzles in the game?
I don't feel like they were overwhelming. I feel like they're suited for the situation. So like they're not. I don't feel like they're overbearing. They kind of made sense. My only issue is just getting through puzzles. Sometimes there are just too many obstacles in front of Senua. So like if I'm trying to solve a puzzle, I can't just get to it. I have to go through a specific path to get to the next part, and I didn't like that. Because like obviously there's clearer paths I could see in the landscape, but you have to maneuver slowly through obstacles. Like I just felt like it padded the playtime by a couple hours for me, because like especially in the villages, like even the early hours, like I was trying to solve some puzzles and I could see where I had to go, but like you can't go directly to it. You had to go through huts, and you had to go under like these wooden bridges, and it's just like I didn't like that. But I feel like they're fine. Like I think they're fine.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, they're not nothing special. Sorry, I just want to interject.
Sure, please.
I was reviewing Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and that is a pure puzzle game where you have to use logic to solve puzzles. So like I'm playing that.
Got it.
And I was reviewing that, and like that game is something I would recommend for anyone who likes to solve puzzle games or just interact with like something that's not combat. It's just a straight puzzle game. You're using logic, arithmetic. You're using poems to solve things, and like that's what I feel a puzzle game should be. This not so much. It's just a means to an end to move forward. It doesn't really have any impact on the gameplay for myself. It's just another tool to push you forward. So they're serviceable to the gameplay, I would say.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it's not the strongest part of the game, but like they're not overbearing. They're not over suffering. Like they're just a good way to break up the sometimes chaotic gameplay sections, like the fighting or whatever you're doing in this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I feel like some of them step up and they were familiar enough. The puzzles were familiar enough that I was like, okay, I'm having fun going through them, finding the symbols, finding out how to align myself with the symbols and stuff like that. But I think ultimately a lot of it came down to kind of what you're talking about, is just the hand holding. I felt like, even aside from the fact that you had two voices kind of navigate you through a lot of the puzzles, it was just a means of, if I just move forward continually, I'm just going to end up at the end of the puzzle. It's not, I have to think about it. It's just, if I can advance through this section of the map, I'm going to end up on the other side of this puzzle. So you can kind of just brute force your way, which kind of just puts the thinking part of the equation aside. But I do feel that by 2/3 of the way through, I was over the bubble puzzles of manipulating like the rocks forming and everything. I was like, I've had enough of this one in particular. I wish there was like a third puzzle or something like that. The one I kind of missed was the faces. The first one, where it's like, okay, you go through back and forth through this reality. I missed that one because it was a late stage puzzle that was introduced that was totally new at a time when the first two, the illusion or the symbol puzzles, were wearing thin. By the time we got to 2/3 of the way through Hellblade 2, I'm like, I've seen it all, I've done it all. Oh, and now we're going back to, hey, we're going to do both of them put together. I was like, oh,
that's great. I
would have preferred a way to just skip them. If you could just, press start to skip. I don't know why they didn't implement that or whatnot, but any game that lets me just skip the parts I don't want to do.
Just speed run. That's called a speed run. Yeah.
It's just sometimes people. I mean, if a puzzle's not engaging or it's fun, why do I have to like bear with it and do it? Just let me skip it. It's just small things. I mean, I know this game's not even that long, but it's just like even 5 minutes of something I don't want to do can turn me off from the game.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it is, right? I mean, but thankfully, they're not too bad. They're not too bad, the puzzles in this game. It's just I would like the option. I've always loved the option if they're like, well, you don't have to do this because we don't want you to do it, so skip.
Yeah,
cool.
So yeah,
was there anything else that we didn't touch on?
The music. I don't know if you guys spoke about the music, but
talked about it a little bit, like with the audio. Yeah, I thought the music was exceptional. When they start doing like I don't know what it's called, but like the throat songs and stuff like that, where they're like humming and like it's very like visceral. It comes through the headphones beautifully.
I'm going to have to. I got to find the headphones for this game. I don't know. Like I feel like everyone's saying you have to play it, and it's just like, well, I don't know. I don't play games with headphones, but like I feel like this is the one I'm gonna have to suck it up and just play it properly.
Highly recommend.
But, yeah, whatever. I mean, overall, like I feel like it is a step up in every sense of that word. But yeah, I really hope that Ninja Theory is around in 5 years or whatever, and we get more of this. It's just it's a great game. I'm really excited that it's finally here after 5 years and some change, and I hope to see more of them soon.
Yep. Marcel, anything else? Yeah,
I was just gonna say that like Hellblade 1 was definitely a trend center, and I feel like this one is another one as well. Like this is the future of gaming. This is the next gen that we were promised, and it's finally here, and it's absolutely amazing. And I do wish it came out a little bit earlier, maybe to like help like. That may have helped it up, but that's out of our hands, and that was out of their hands as well.
Sure.
But it's definitely like the first opening scene of the game, you're gonna be like how is this even possible? Like things look so real, it's crazy.
It's like witchcraft, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just reiterate my point from the top of the show is that this is exactly what I've wanted from Xbox for so long. I think this fills a void in their catalog. It's compelling, it's visceral, it's beautiful, it's haunting, it's everything I want out of something cinematic. And Ninja Theory deserves all the acclaim, all the flowers for putting in a lot of hard work. You can just tell that this is just a concept, or like the result of a concept long in gestation, long in the making. And the fact that they were able to do this period and get away with like some of the most realistic graphics I've ever seen, best audio, best storytelling that I've seen in a video game in a long time.
Best photo mode as well. Best photo mode, hands down. You can move anywhere you want to go. I got some photos to share. I can't wait.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be so annoying online.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Yeah, I just want to bring it up. Like, so the photo mode, yes, I can think we're all agreeing it is incredible.
Yep.
What blew me away was I would just press up on photo mode at any point, despite whether it's in game or it's a cutscene, and I could move around the camera. Like that is insane.
Dude, I have some moments during like cinematic moments when you're not like controlling Senua, and I'm like, I shouldn't be like, it feels illegal that I'm able to manipulate the camera right now.
Yeah,
there
was a scene where she's looking at like certain enemies. I paused it. I looked around. I'm like, oh, there's more enemies on the side. I was like, oh, there's a lot more around.
Like there are things like when you're able to go into the photo mode and you're able to actually see how much is actually rendered in the world in a way that again doesn't normally happen in a video game. Like in a lot of video games, like they force your perspective, they force your hand to look at a certain thing, to do a certain thing. In this game, like it's just
they're like, have fun.
Yep.
Whatever you want.
No,
you want another light? You want 3 lights? Add 3 lights if you wanted to. Go nuts.
It's something you don't really see anymore. And yeah, it's the fact that I was able to also to take so many photos just without even giving a shit about the photo mode of like, oh, I'm just hitting record on this because it looks that good. You don't need to manipulate it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's a little bit different on PC because like you have to hit pause to go to photo mode. Yeah. And then but like the stuff you can do and move around like during like high detailed like cinematic.
It's crazy.
I was like, how am I able to move around this? And it'd be like, oh, put real time on, and the fire in the background's moving on. I'm like, what? Like, what is happening right now?
I can just make my own like animated wallpaper right now.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Did you want to talk about the aspect very quickly? The aspect ratio?
Sure.
That's one thing I'm really surprised about. Where it's
so they do have like the letterboxing on the top and bottom, making it. It's obviously optimized for like an ultra wide monitor. That's exactly like, or they want it to be, a wide mode for cinematics.
I wonder if it was like a performance thing as well. I can't imagine. Like maybe
I don't think so.
Because I'm just surprised they didn't have the option to just take that off. Like in the photo mode, you can
play with all the aspect ratios in photo
everything
mode.
Else, I'm like, why would they?
I think it's just a creative decision of like, this is a pure distilled movie that you're playing through without any text or like button prompts on screen or anything like that. So we're going to make this as cinematic as possible. Like you're watching, Dunkirk on your home theater system. We're Christopher Nolan. I'm making up a brand new term. We're doing the Nolan thing for video games. We're making it just high cinema, and
it's wild, man. Crazy.
Marcel, thank you so much for joining once again, back to back. The Hellboys right here. Hellboys right here. Where can people keep up with you online? Keep up with the charity streams and everything. Pimp everything out.
MD14 everywhere. I'm tweeting it out every single day. I'm doing a charity stream for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital every single day for the month of May. So come, which I just released a new incentive. You can throw a cake at me now. Your name on it. Purchase your own cake. And someone will be tossing a cake at me at the end of the month. So,
unreal. Love that. We'll have links and everything in the description. Bobby, where can people keep up with you, keep up with the website, everything?
You can find me, B Pashalides, on all socials. Follow my link tree. Everything's there. Everything for the website. We're on Bluesky, Threads, TikTok, YouTube. We're everywhere. You'll find me there.
Very cool. And as for me, you can find me across the internet at Asvikvari. Once again, thank you to Xbox for giving us all codes for Hellblade 2. Game comes out. By the time you're listening to this, you can actually start playing on Xbox Series X, S, PC, and then Game Pass as well. So jump in if you like what you heard. Highly recommended game. But yes, we appreciate you all for taking the time to listen to this review of Hellblade. And until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.